Welcome to Actual Scale Modelling. This is part 9 of Revell's Cruiser ship AIDA, scale 1 to 400. In part 9, I'm primarily concentrating on placing in the handrails and the balconies for the cabins. So let's jump into this and see how I get on. To start things off, I'm using 16 Sandy Yellow by Revell Colour, and this is for some of the outer steps on the decks. And I'm switching over to 99 aluminium. Now this is for the struts on the windows and railings. So any clear part that you see me putting on, this is basically what I'm using. And for the wooden part, I'm using 382 wood brown. And this is like the top of the safety railings or banisters and so forth. So those are the two main colours I'm going to be doing. Now, I'm concentrating in this video on placing in these clear parts. There is a lot to place in and a lot to do, but they're all basically the same, albeit different shapes and so forth. So at the moment I'm concentrating on the stern of the ship, putting in the safety decking barriers here, I should say. And then before I carry on, I'm just placing in the two steps leading up to the next deck. Now just where my other fingers are, you'll notice that deck is slightly darker than the other ones. That part of the deck took most of the coffee spill that I explained in part 8. So when I repainted it, I couldn't strip it down, so I just had to paint over the top once I cleaned off as much as I could. So it's a little bit darker. It's something I'm going to have to live with. And I'm moving around to the side of the ship, and I'm starting to place on the balcony banisters and safety barriers as well. These are in strips, and they're easy to fit on, just a little bit fiddly and a bit time consuming. So while I'm waiting for the first set to dry, I'm moving back to the top deck in the entertainment area. Now this blue area and sand area you see here, these are covered in umbrella and parasols, and the instructions say put them on at the end, but I'm putting in the struts now because I want to fill up the pool area with realistic water. So what I have here is some realistic water. I'm just using a pipette to place it in, and it takes a little bit while for this to cure and go hard. So it's better if you do overnight, which I'm doing here. This is why I'm placing in the struts for the umbrella in this particular area first of all, so that I can get this overnight, then carry on working with it tomorrow. So after the water cured off overnight, it's back to placing the barriers on. I'm using Formula Carnage glue to attach these. This is stuff that won't fog up any clear part, which is quite important, especially when you've got so much clear parts to place on. So that's most of the side clear parts are on for the balcony. So now I'm concentrating on the bow of the ship. There's a couple of little upright parts to go on first. I think there might be a light, something like that. I'm not 100% sure. I put them in first before I put on the next set of clear parts. As you can see, these are curved to fit the bow of the ship on each deck. There's a little mast that sits on this deck. I have to make sure that the safety barrier is actually in place first, because there's a little bracket that sits directly on top of the safety barrier. And now I'm working on the very top decks. I'm putting in the safety barriers along here. Now these will run down the entire length of the ship. They're much the same as the balconies and the safety barriers for the stern and bow as well. I should point out as well though, not everyone had the wooden colour at the top as a banister, or only the areas where the passenger will grab hold of and aid them as they're walking along the ship. Here I have actual banisters, and the top part is 382 wood brown, so very much similar to the safety barriers. And these are getting placed round about where there's steps and so forth on the top deck. There's quite a few of them, and they're all quite small, so it's difficult to get the camera right in to see them as my hand's getting in the way. And yeah, again, it's more safety banners to go on the top deck. As I pointed out, there's quite a lot of them. Some of them have unique characteristics. You have to make sure that you are lining them up properly to line in with the other parts of the ship. So it can be quite tricky to put these in. I'm placing the decals for the, I think it's an entertainment screen for on the top deck, but there's just the little lip decal to go on. I assume that's what it has on it when it's not getting used. I'm now using Revell Aquila 47mm grey, and this is to highlight the struts that are going up against the side of the entertainment screen. There's a bit of sub-assembly required before I put on the entertainment screen. For instance, the banister here has a little mast that comes out, and the other two struts that go beside, you have to make them up. They're only two parts sandwiched together, and once they were dried I was able to fit them in. First of all, I'm putting in the struts on the either side before placing in the main unit, this screen. I think it's a screen. I could be completely wrong, of course, but it looks like a screen to me. So now it's to the stern of the ship. I'm placing on the safety barriers for this. Although they're shaped to the contours of the actual deck itself, they needed slight adjustments here and there for to get a proper fit. Some of them didn't quite fit. I had to trim a little bit here and there. There was one in particular that I had to fill. I didn't record it for some reason, but it was only a tiny little bit of filler I had to put in. So I'm just putting on the last of the barriers and the banisters and so forth on now. This forms a walkway area around the ball court area. These are quite a jumbled up way to do them. They're sort of positioned in a strange way on the instructions. It would have been easier for a beginner to follow if they were numbered in stages 1, 2 and so forth. If you do come across anything like that, just have a look at it and pick your starting point. But try and start on a hard edge and a leading edge. Don't try and start in the middle, because once you start bringing your banisters or balconies, whatever it is you're doing, down to an end point, you want to make sure they're going to reach that end point, and that you haven't got too much on one side and not enough on the other. So start on a hard edge point, but not in the middle, then just work your way around and it should all be okay. So I'm just going to be working my way around, finishing off all the balconies. So this is a good point to end part 9. In part 10, I'll be coming near to the end of the build. If not, I may finish the build in part 10. I'll just see how I get on. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the channel for my other builds? There may be something there that will interest you. Or of course you can go back and have a look at the build log for this build. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll be notified of any updates, including for this build. Hit that little bell notification as well. Hit the like button, and of course you can leave a comment. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.